was 7 hours away from my hometown, and it was early in the morning, still dark outside early. My car was packed, Hoser was blasting, I had no memory of packing or driving that far, and I'm not sure what made me snap, but I just did. I strongly disliked who I was, and I was stuck reliving past situations and past people that I was hurting, still hurting. And, I realized in that moment I've made a lot of mistakes for 23, and each one would resurface this entire last year. So my growth journey kind of started in 2020 to 2021, and now in 2022, towards the end of the year, I'm comfortable talking about these things, and I'm comfortable, I guess, expressing my accountability and knowing where I was wrong and sharing the lessons that I have learned. So everything from 23 to 24, all of those mistakes that I had made up until 23 were just hitting me so fast, so quick. I was so overwhelmed. By my 24th birthday, I had completely self-destructed myself. I destroyed everything about myself. I caused my own ego death. I looked at every single situation in my life that was negative, that was impactful, and I made myself believe that I was wrong in instances where I was wrong and instances where I wasn't wrong. So I was still able to see, no, this is where I was wrong in this situation. But I would also take someone else's accountability as well. I didn't get to this downfall because I was abusing substances and I hurt people. I was just a hurt person hurting people. And because of choices that I made, I ended up drinking excessively and developed a problem with drinking. And oftentimes I hurt people in situations where I was intoxicated, and that wasn't okay. That's not ever okay. But I got here because of my own patterns of behavior when it came to how I treated other people. And I genuinely only have myself to blame for that. And that was a realization that I had made on that drive. So by November 2021, I was completely gone. There was no id in me. There was no ego. There was no sense to my identity or who I was. And I just couldn't stop beating myself up over everything that I'd done. I got really, really depressed, and I just felt like I would never get better. I would never change. I thought I was hopeless. I thought I was just not able to treat other people correctly. And, that was my lowest point, and that was my own fault, There were situations where I had the opportunity to do better, and I chose not to do better because I was scared of rejection. I was scared of backlash or just not being heard. And these are all issues that I realize now stem from my childhood and how I grew up. And ultimately, it was my responsibility to fix those traumas and not project those onto other people. So, between November and December of 2021, I was going back and forth between, yes, I could do better, and having hope and having motivation, and then having really low periods of depression where I didn't even want to eat. I couldn't get out of bed. I just couldn't do anything. And there was a lot of outside contributing factors to majority of it, but I ultimately need to take accountability because I had the opportunity to get myself out of a lot of situations. And again, I had a lot of opportunities to do better, and I chose to stick with what I knew because of past experiences. I decided I didn't want to be hurt again, and I lived in fear. So I did what I thought was best. But then there was something that happened. I found a YouTuber, Michelle B., and she recommended a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it was just randomly one of my motivation hype-up days. And so I bought the book and I just started reading it. And I couldn't put it down. I was starting to shift the way that I was thinking. These past situations that I was still holding on to, they were coming up, and I was able to reflect and take accountability for myself and not for the other person. My mindset was shifting, and I was taking an internal vow to rebuild a better version of myself. Someone that I always wanted to be, someone that always had the potential to be there, but never put in the work to do better, never put in the work to heal old wounds, old traumas, old problems. What I didn't realize was the work had already started months before. I just didn't respect myself enough to keep pushing it. And now that I've started practicing self-love, when I started practicing self-love, I found all of the good qualities about myself, and I began to nurture those parts of myself. And whenever a bad situation, a bad feeling, a bad emotion came up, I would sit down and I would think about it, and I would think back to every single time I had felt that emotion until I got to the very first time that I had ever felt that emotion and what happened. And I reflected on that first event, and then I was able to see how wrong I was in every other event after that. At this point, I had literally nothing because I was able to just take sole accountability for myself. And I'm not proud of the things that I did, but there was still hope in my mind. When you have nothing, you have all the opportunities to try something different, to try something new, to be someone new. So I made her. I made the girl that I wanted to be, the person that I could look up to most. I believe it was Matthew McConaughey who said it. He's always his own hero, but it's a 10-year in the future version of him. So he's constantly chasing himself. He's constantly chasing a betterment for himself. And that's kind of what I did. I figured if she was considerate about her own personal health, then she would drink more water and follow through with her doctor visits. And that's what I began to do. The night before I would go to bed, I would put a glass of water on my nightstand, so that way I would wake up, turn off my alarm, drink my water, and then start my day. And even if I was extremely, extremely sad some days, and I just couldn't move and I couldn't do it because I was beating myself up over choices that I made and ways that I treated people that I shouldn't have, I still had that glass of water. So there was still that physical form of hope that no, you can change, you can do better, and you can treat people better, you can treat yourself better. She explored why she did what she did, where these emotions came from, and what could be done different next time. And over time, more and more, I felt like myself. I was happy, and I am happy. She's able to identify her problems. She's able to identify the need of those shadow toxic behaviors that no longer have purpose. And they never had purpose in the first place, but I had fear. I'm not proud of being a liar at times. I'm not proud of being a manipulator at times. I'm not proud of being somewhat narcissistic at times. But I'm not ashamed to hold myself accountable for where I've failed. And this is when my growth expelled. So at this point, I'm learning the lessons. I'm identifying cycles. I'm breaking patterns within myself. I made myself a priority, and I made my self-love and my self-care a priority to the point where I became confident in the person that I had created. I had constructed this new human being, and she was going to be rebuilt after this past human being and how her actions caused a nuclear meltdown. And I finally know that I'm capable of continuing to do better. When you're the main character of your own story, you can also be your own mini boss or your own raid boss. And that means you can be that to someone else as well. You can also just be an NPC. Perfectly fine, chillin'. But the moment that you want better for yourself, it's like life becomes a video game and you're just chasing your experience points. You sometimes have to replay levels 1,000 times, but you're learning the mechanics, you're learning your mistakes, and you're beating that final boss. Whether that final boss is you, whether it's just a mini boss of a past trauma situation, whether it's, I don't know, any kind of negative emotion that you're facing. It's a challenge, and sometimes you have to take a step back, look at yourself, figure out what you're doing wrong and why it makes you feel that way and where that feeling came from. I am by no means necessarily done. I'm still constantly learning. I'm still constantly having aha moments where I make internal realizations about myself. But most importantly, I am respecting myself enough to hold myself to a higher standard than what I did. And I'm extremely proud of that. And I hope that this gives other people hope that, we can do some really gross and toxic things to other people, but we can change our perspective and we can be more considerate. I hope this video helped in some way, shape, or form. I think that's my only purpose now, is to share my experiences, share my mistakes, share my lessons, and hopefully you learn something from it too. If you would like to see the slowed down version of this painting, it will be available on my Patreon. That link will be down below in the description, as well as the link to my RedBubble and all my other socials. But until next time, I'm gonna go do some more growth and healing. I hope you, my friend, are happy, healthy, and healing, and I will see you next time.